and welcome to another episode of Family Gaming 24/7. In this series, we take a game and break it down into its individual parts. We show you what you get in the box, summarise the rules, and then play the game. Hopefully by doing this, we help you make an informed decision as to whether the game will be suitable for you, your family, or your gaming group. Unfortunately, both Rosie and Matthew can't be here today, so I thought I'd take this opportunity to start this series about a game that, for those of you who follow me on Twitter, will probably already know, I have a love-hate relationship with. It is, of course, the Space Hulk Death Angel card game. By love-hate, I mean I love to play it, but I hate losing it. Unfortunately for me, I lose more often than I win. But let's hope this series will change all that. So let's not waste any more time, and let's start the show. Space Hulk Death Angel is a cooperative card game by Fantasy Flight Games for 1 to 6 players. In it, you control squads of Terminator Space Marines venturing deep into a massive Space Hulk. The aim is to complete the mission objective while surviving against the continual assault of the Genestealers. Let's open the box and see what you get inside. Firstly, the rulebook, quite self-explanatory. Next, combat team markers. These are used to decide who controls what combat team. Next up, a selection of support tokens. These are used to provide additional support to your Space Marines, namely the ability to re-roll the combat dice when either attacking or defending. Next is the combat dice. This is used when resolving Space Marine and Genestealer attacks. Finally, you get 128 cards. These are made up of 18 action cards, 3 for each combat team. These cards are used to perform a number of activities with your Space Marines. This includes attacking Genestealers, moving your Space Marines, and supporting fellow Space Marines. 36 Genestealer cards and 2 Broodlord cards. These cards represent the hostile creatures that want to rip your Space Marines limb from limb. 30 event cards. These cards are used to spawn Genestealers and affect Space Marines either positively, but more often than not negatively. 22 location cards. These cards represent places within the Space Hulk that the Space Marines can explore. This includes the Voidlock cards, which represent the first location that your Space Marines start. 12 Space Marine cards, 6 teams of 2, and finally 8 terrain cards. These cards are placed next to the Space Marines and mark specific locations where the Genestealers may spawn. So now let's go down to the table to show you how the game is set up. Okay, so we have all the components on the table, so let's run through the setup. The first thing to do is to shuffle all the event cards and then put them to one side, and we'll come back to these later. Then take the Genestealer cards, remove the Broodlord cards, shuffle, and then put off to one side. We'll come back to those later as well. Next, we take the Voidlock cards. You only ever use one of these in a game, and it depends on how many players are in the game as to which one you use. Now, as we're going to be playing the single player game, we're going to actually have to look on the card for the one that says, which is this one, set up for 1 player. So we'll take this one and we'll discard the rest because we don't need these. So now that we've chosen our Voidlock card, we can now choose the remaining location cards. On the back of the location cards, you'll notice a number. There are 3 cards at each number, So we have 3 at 1A, 3 at 1B, 3 at 1C, and then 3 2s, 3 3s, and 3 4s. Now if we look on the void lock card, it tells us that we need a 2, a 3, and a 4. So what we do is we take the 3 2s and put them in a pile, the 3 3s, put them in a separate pile, and the 3 4s, put them in a separate pile. We then pick up each packet of 3 and mix them up. And then take one and deal it down the table and discard the rest. We do the same for the 3s. And finally the same for the 4s. Now we do all this with the cards face down, so we can't see what cards we're picking, what locations we're picking. We then arrange the location cards in numerical order, so the 2s first, the 3s and then the 4s. These will be the location cards we're using in this game. We can discard all the remaining location cards and void lock cards as they will be getting used. What we then need to do is start laying out the table. So we place the void lock card just below the selected location cards. So now we need to decide which combat teams we're going to use. To do this, we take the combat team markers and place them all face down. Give them a shuffle. And in the single player game, we have to choose 3 combat teams. So we'll draw 3 random tokens and discard the rest. So in this game, we've picked the yellow team, the green team, and the kind of bluey, turquoisey, purpley team. What we then do is we then pick the corresponding action cards to the team cards. So we have the 3 action cards for the green team, the 3 action cards for the yellow team, and finally the 3 bluey colour. Yeah, blue. Where are we? There we are. And the remaining cards can be discarded because we won't be using these combat teams during this game. We do the same for the actual Space Marines. So we need the yellow Space Marines, the green Space Marines. There's the 2 green. There's the 2 yellow, and there's the 2 blue. We can discard the rest. So then what we need to do is we need to gather up all of the Marines and give them a mix up. Now in the instruction manual it actually says to do this under the table or behind your back, or but as you can see I am shuffling fairly, so once you're happy with the mix up of the cards, you deal them out underneath the void lock. The first 3 that you deal out have to be facing to the left. And when I say facing, I mean the arrow has to be on the left, and the bottom 3 have to be facing to the right. Let's just move all these up a bit so you can see. Now these get placed in a line underneath the void lock. This represents our Space Marine formation. If you can imagine, they're making their way through the Space Hulk in a single file. What we do next is we take the action cards and we just set them off to the side, just here. So we have an attack, move and activate, and support card for blue. We have the same for yellow, an attack, move and activate, and support, and the same for green, attack, move and activate, and support. What I like to do next is I like to place the appropriate combat marker next to the appropriate team. Next we go back to the void lock card, and you can see, if I can get it up, you can see there are 4 symbols on the card. There's 2 on the left and 2 on the right. These represent the location, the terrain cards, sorry, and the actual match the symbols on the terrain cards. So what we'll do now is we'll go and we'll extract these 4 terrain cards from the pile, because these are the terrain cards that will be used in the first room. So we have a door terrain card, we have a corridor, a ventilation duct, and a dark corner. And these are the only 4 terrain cards we'll be using in this room. On the void lock card, each symbol has a number under it. With, I don't know if you can see that or not, if it's very clear, with an arrow. The symbols on the left hand side have a little arrow pointing down, and the symbols on the right hand side have an arrow pointing up. What that means, this represents the position in the formation where the terrain cards are placed. So the door terrain card is placed in the number 1 position, which is there. And then at the number 3 position, counting down, hence the down arrow, the dark corner is placed. 1, 2, 3. And then on the right hand side you see the arrows pointing up, so that means you start at the bottom and count up. Don't know if you can see that. So in the third from bottom position is the ventilation duct, which is 1, 2, 3, and they get placed on the right hand side. And finally, second from bottom is the corridor, 1, 2. These terrain cards represent where the Genestealers are going to spawn at the start of each round. The other icons on the card, I don't know if you noticed or not, but we have a yellow triangle with red spikes around and a white triangle. These represent the major and minor spawns of the Genestealers. So whenever on the turn of an event card, we come across a yellow triangle with red spikes around. That represents a major spawn, and we have to spawn 2 Genestealers on that location. And the same for the white triangle. Whenever we identify a white triangle on an event card, we have to spawn 1 Genestealer. The last piece of information on the Voidlock cards are these numbers here. 2 6s. This represents the number of Genestealers in each blip pile. Now we haven't created the blip piles yet, and we'll do that next. So in the left hand blip pile I need 6 Genestealer cards, and in the right hand blip pile I need 6 Genestealer cards. So I take the Genestealer deck and I just literally deal out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and place that to the right of the Voidlock, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and place that to the left of the Voidlock. And these represent the blip piles. In order to advance to the next location, we have to get one of these blip piles down to 0 cards. The combat tokens are just placed to one side, as is the combat dice. I'll bring my dice tower in now for when we come to use that. And now the room's set up. So now that the room's set up, we need to determine how many Genestealers are going to spawn at each location. So to do this, we just turn over the top card of the event deck. We ignore all the text on the card, so we don't pay any attention to. You probably can't make it out, but there is text written on this card. We just notice that there's a white triangle on a red square and a white triangle on a yellow square. So that represents a minus spawn on red and a minus spawn on yellow. We ignore everything else on the card. So as we established at the very beginning, a minus spawn is 1 Genestealer. So we need to spawn 1 Genestealer on red and 1 Genestealer on yellow. What we do to do that is we take them from the blip piles. So if a Genestealer spawns on any colour on this side, we take it from this blip pile, and any colour on this side is taken from that blip pile. So we need 1 Genestealer on red and 1 Genestealer on yellow, and we're set up to go now. So I'm going to end the video there. In the next episode we'll be running through the rules of the game, a very brief summary, and playing through the first few rounds of a game. But I do have to warn you, this game is extremely brutal, and I only currently have about a 33% success rate at this game. It's very, very difficult indeed. Please subscribe and comment if you have any questions at all about the setup or about the game. Please post a comment on the video asking me a question. I'll try my very best to answer that in the next video. But until then, happy gaming.